My name is Jacinta Burgess. I'm a caregiver in Harrisburg, where Governor Josh Shapiro gave his budget address today. I'm also a member of the Union United Home Care Workers of PA, which represents thousands of direct care workers across the state. Our union consists of caregivers and those we care for, coming together to make sure that caregivers have a seat at the table in making decisions about the home care system that we hold on our shoulders. Today, hundreds of home care worker members and union members gathered to watch the budget address to see if Governor Josh Shapiro, would speak up about the need to fund home care and make it the best state for our elderly and people with disabilities. We are impressed by his overall vision to grow our economy and provide more opportunity to working families and community. We are also excited to hear the governor recognize the value of caregiving and the need to ensure caregivers are paid a living wage. However, we are disappointed that he didn't specifically mention home care funding as a priority. We call on the governor to go even further and specifically recognize and call for $20 an hour for the home care workers poverty who are currently living and earning poverty level wages. Like I said, I'm a caregiver myself, and I've been taking care of my mother for about 3 years. She has a wide variety of health issues that I support her through: tremors, stutters, memory issues, physical handicaps, and mental health issues. My mother is the most important person in my life, so that is why this work is so important to me. I only make $13.38 an hour, and I'm barely scraping by. My bills, like rent and utilities, take more than half of my income, leaving me struggling to feed myself and my mother. The good news is, strengthening our home care system isn't rocket science. We all know what will work. First, PA must increase reimbursement rates with a path towards getting every caregiver to $20 an hour. And we must ensure those dollars make it to the front lines by requiring that a minimum percentage go directly to care, with incentives to ensure investment in workforce in order to address our care crisis. We also are called for a market-based analysis of rates every 3 years to ensure rates are adjusted for inflation going forward. Pennsylvania should follow the lead of other states to ensure greater transparency for funding, requiring home care agencies to report quality outcomes and directing funding to high quality nonprofit mission driven agencies. Like I said, the solutions are simple. The hard part is getting our state to actually prioritize care, our elderly, and our loved ones with disabilities. We want reporters to hear directly from those most impacted, so we have several people here to share their responses to the budget address. First, I want to share a message from our union's president, Mark Yarnell, who sent us a message from Rotunda.
Hey there, Matt Yarnell, president of SEIU Healthcare Pennsylvania. I'm here on the balcony at the governor's budget address. And we, myself, along with thousands of home care workers, applaud the governor's call for $15 an hour and are disappointed that there's not more being done immediately to lift the wages of home care workers to at least $15 an hour on a path to 20. Across this Commonwealth, home care workers, the average wage is $13 an hour, which is deplorable. Pennsylvania consumers who need care at home deserve better. Workers deserve better, and we are calling on this governor and this administration and this legislature to invest in care now. Care can't wait. We are going to do everything we can to lift up the voices of caregivers and consumers to ensure that we have access to high quality care and that caregivers are paid a living wage. Hey there, Matt Yarnell, president.
Okay, and now let's hear from Linda Ordorf from Western PA.
Hi, my name's Linda Orndorff. I'm a participant-directed home care worker in Cole Center, and I am a full-time caregiver for my mother and also for my grandson who has autism. Like Jacinta said, we just watched Governor Shapiro's budget address, and it was heartening to hear Governor Shapiro once again call on our legislature to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, and the need to invest in for investment in caregivers. However, all caregivers need wage increases, not just those working with people with developmental disabilities. We are personal assistance caregivers, and we also deserve a raise. There is a quicker way to get hundreds of thousands of workers to $15 an hour, which is to increase funding for home care and make sure that money goes to the caregivers. We don't need to wait for a minimum wage bill to get through a tough legislature. Raising home care wages would lift hundreds of thousands.
All right, I'm sorry. It looks like we lost Linda. So I'm going to move on to our next speaker, and just let me double check my script. Sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Our next speaker is Brandon. Please take it away, Brandon. Can we get Brandon off of mute?
Sorry, guys. Um, I'm here now. Hello, guys.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi. Sorry. My name is Brandon Kingsmore, and I've been receiving home care for 16 years. I rely on home care to help me with my daily tasks to make it possible for me to live at home with independence. Hold on, guys. Um, I'm having technical difficulties here. Um, I'm so sorry. My computer just went out.
We can still see you and hear you.
Okay, my fault.
It's okay, Brandon. Is it all right if we move on to the next person, and we'll come back to you since you're
Yeah,
having?
that's fine.
Okay.
Sorry, my computer just. Go ahead.
Okay. Let's see. Our next speaker is Lolita. Can you please take it away?
Hello, everyone. My name is Lolita Owens, and I'm a home care worker with Liberty Resources and another home care agency. I've been a home care worker off and on for about 21 years. My union brothers and sisters have shared why they despitely need to increase home care funding to get home care wages to $20 an hour. I want to also stress that the governor and state lawmakers must use their authority to make sure any new funding goes directly to care. Unfortunately, due to the lack of transparency and accountability on agencies, not enough of this funding is spent on care supporting our seniors and adults with disabilities. At first, I know this firsthand. I work with two home care agencies. One is a nonprofit agency connected to the Center of Independent Living, and the other and state raised the reimbursement rates in 2022. Our union and employer worked together to raise wages by $2. Now, all caregivers there are at $15 an hour with benefits. But the union meant that we had a voice and made sure that new state funds were directly in towards improving care. But the other employer that I have doesn't or hasn't and is not a part of the union claimed that they knew nothing about the rate increase or any COVID bonuses or any wages, that they did not know any of about the change. I called them time and time again and just to get a bunch of excuses. I still haven't gotten a raise and I'm still making $13 an hour there, the same amount of money that I started with in September of 2021. Where did the money go? How do we so many care home care agencies, get away from keeping home care workers state money for themselves rather than putting it in to caregiver wages where it is desperately needed? Home care agencies get $20.44 an hour from the state. Yet the average wage of home care workers is $13.40 an hour. This is an outrage. We taxpayers pay for the increasingly expensive home care system. So the time is now to emphasize transparency and accountability. Our states have figured out how to do this, and I don't won't stop speaking up until we get there here in Pennsylvania.
Thank you very much, Lolita. Now we're going to pass it back to Linda.
Hi again, everybody. My name's Linda Orndorff. I'm a participant-directed home care worker in Cole Center, and I am a full-time caregiver for my mother and also for my grandson who has autism. Like Jacinta said, we just watched Governor Shapiro's budget address, and it was heartening to hear Governor Shapiro once again call on our legislators to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, as we should. However, all caregivers need a wage increase, not just those working with people with developmental disabilities. We are personal assistance caregivers and we also deserve a raise. But there's a quicker way to get hundreds of thousands of workers to 15 an hour, which is to increase the funding for home care and make sure that money goes to the caregivers. We don't need to wait for a minimum wage bill to get through a tough legislature. Raising home care wages would lift hundreds of thousands of us out of poverty immediately, and by us, I mean one of the biggest workforces in the state, one that is largely made up of women, especially women of color. It's time to pass a budget that invests in caregivers and get home care workers to $15 an hour as soon as possible, with a path to 20. In Washington state, caregivers make 21 an hour. In Illinois, they're over 18, and in California, minimum caregiver wage is 25 an hour. Without a plan for how to get caregivers out of poverty, there's no way to build a sustainable home care system that works for our elderly and people with disability. I currently make $12.65 an hour. What's hard to swallow with that is that I made those same wages in the 1980s, and I couldn't live on them either. My mother and my grandson both depend on my care 7 days a week, 10 hours a day. Of course, I have no time to get another job, nor should I need to, since I'm employed as a full-time essential health care worker. Why has the cost of our food and other necessities gone up? The cost of all of our utilities has gone up. The stockbrokers on Wall Street and the corporate CEOs make a whole lot more, and yet we, the people who are the backbone of care for Pennsylvania's elderly and people with disabilities, are stuck at 1980s wages. I'm 62. I've been working hard my entire life, and yet I'm terrified of retirement because I have no savings. The impact of these low wages isn't just material. It's totally wrecked my community and support systems. Because the pay is so low, it's nearly impossible to get backup care. Right now, there is only one home care worker for every 8 people who want and need to have care inside their own home. We're in a real caregiving crisis right now. No one is willing to do this work when it pays so little and offers no benefits or security. We need to figure out how to get more resources so that our loved ones can get the care they need. And I'm deeply committed to standing with other caregivers in my union until we get this done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda. Now we're going to pass it back to Brandon.
Brandon Keenmore, and I've been receiving home care for the past 16 years. I rely on caregivers to help me with my daily tasks that make it possible for me to live at home with independence. Being able to stay at home means I can be involved in my community, take improv classes, play video games, be with family and friends when I want to. Without home care, my life that I know would be at an end. So my heart dropped when I didn't hear Governor Shapiro specifically mention the need for more funding to support the caregivers who keep me going every day. I know the work that the job takes on my caregivers, what they sacrifice every day to do this important, meaningful work that only pays 12 something an hour. These low wages make it impossible for me to find extra caregivers when I need them. Not everyone can sacrifice like that. I have one primary caregiver, and for years I've been looking for backups for my one caregiver so she can pursue other interests. I would love to have I would love to have an opportunity. I would love to feel like my caregiver could have a break, but it's just not possible. I am fighting I'm fighting for this because this is life or death. I am not a statistic. I am actually a human being with feelings and emotions. And in order for the workforce to grow, there has to be money put into it, and it needs to happen now. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Now we're going to pass it to Helen Burke. Please take it away, Helen.
Thank you, Jacinta. My name is Helen Burke, and I am a home caregiver here in Erie, PA, with a Center for Independent Living called Voices for Independence. I have been a caregiver for 5 years now. We as home care workers are organizing together to address the short staffing and workforce crisis driven by low wages. We currently call on Governor Shapiro and all elected officials to expand home care funding while also holding home care agencies accountable. I watched today's budget address with a lot of interest, as Governor Shapiro has done wonderful things thus far for our state, but so far I haven't heard him say he'll prioritize bringing caregiving to the forefront with livable wages of $20. Nor have I heard him say that accountability measures will be in place to ensure that the money goes to the workers. I have had several consumers over the past few years. I currently take care of Amy, who has a who has cerebral palsy and needs care to do almost everything we take for granted, like just getting out of bed and going to the restroom. Amy goes to work Monday through Friday and needs a caregiver to help with basic things like driving her to work, some of the office stuff that she does, filing, note taking, when she needs to go to the restroom, or just getting her lunch. I currently earn $13 an hour. Despite doing very similar work to CNAs who earn much more, I try not to think about the old days when I was a quality engineer with benefits and didn't have to rely on Medicare or food stamps. I struggled just to survive and have seen my own health decline from my back surgeries, Lyme's disease, and other complications from those. In order to increase wages so that caregivers can live with dignity and comfortable, we need to significantly increase home care funding. In addition to increasing funding in this year's state budget, the state should also conduct a market-based analysis of rates every 3 years to ensure that rates are adjusted for inflation going forward. I did hear that he will increase funding for caregiving, but it seems like it's only in the intellectual and developmental disabilities programs. Shapiro announced that the intellectual and development disabilities programs are getting a 12% increase. That was the 215 million. And in addition, additional 54 million to address workforce retention in that area. This happened because developmental disability programs have to do a rate analysis every 3 years to make sure that the pay goes up with the cost of living. If home care programs had this mandated rate analysis every 3 years, we would well be on our way to livable wages. But instead, here I am, $13 an hour. And of course, once the funding increases, we need accountability to make sure the money goes towards care. The great news is that I work for a home care agency that is really invested in supporting people with disabilities and making sure they live independently. That means they've also invested in their caregivers. We have a union at my agency, which means we negotiate with management over any new state money that's put into home care. In other words, at my agency, our union means accountability. It means the money actually goes to the care. When we won the 8% rate increase from the state during the pandemic, we sat down with management and agreed to put the whole 8% increase into every care worker's pocket. This raise helped me so much. It let me pay on my utilities instead of having to choose between them or getting gas to get to work. Caregivers like me were called heroes all throughout the pandemic. And heroes shouldn't have to be deciding which bills to pay every month. My fellow union caregivers and I can live with our dedicated to increasing home care funding so that we, our families, and the people we care for can live with dignity and independence. I am urging Governor Shapiro and our elected officials to recognize our dedication and take action to support us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Helen. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Lolita. And thank you, Linda. As you can see, my fellow caregivers and I pour our hearts and souls into making sure the people we care for live lives of independence and dignity. Which is why, at the very least, we need to get home care pay to a more dignified wage of $20 an hour. And, and let's use taxpayer money in the smartest way possible, which means making sure that all home care funding increases are tied to accountability measures so that the money actually goes towards those wages. Thank you all for joining. We have time to take a few questions if anyone has any.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop in right here. I know we had a few. I know we had a few reporters who registered for the press conference. So if you're a reporter from a media outlet, if you wanted to put your questions in the comments, we can have some of our home care workers as well as Brandon answer any questions. So I'll give that a few minutes, and then if not, I think we'll conclude. Okay, I'm gonna give it just a few more minutes in case someone is typing in the chat. Okay, I think with that we're gonna conclude. Any press who are watching, who are attending the press conference, can also follow up with me. You should have my email, and at emily.dong@sciuhcpa.org. And with that, I'm gonna pass it back to Jacinta to do one more conclusion of just ending this officially.
All right, we thank you all for attending. Wonderful speeches and testimonies given by our caregivers and also the person, Brandon, who receives care. We thank you so much for joining us, and please reach out if you have any additional questions to Emily. Thank you. Thank you very much.